Get started.
Okay, excellent. So Andy, would you like to take it away?
Yeah. Thank you everybody for taking out either your lunch break or whatever and wanting to know more about badgers or how badgers fit in with ecology and climate change and things like that. First of all, I'm not used to sitting still while I'm doing a presentation. I spend quite a lot of time doing presentations and end up walking all over the place. So yeah, I'm a bit captive and I feel a bit lost at the moment, but I'm sure I'll get over it and work my way into it. So anyway, I'm Andy Hardman. I'm chair of the Lancashire Badger Trust and also a trustee. Been involved with badgers for probably about 30 years with the Lancashire Badger Group. And in that time, started off basically doing just set surveys and monitoring, and ended up somehow or other, I've ended up as chair along the way, sort of thing. But also I've a range of jobs that I do, some that will become apparent as we go through the thing. One is doing talks and presentation in education. The other one is planning applications. And what I'm trying to do, and I'll try and talk you through what the Badger Group, a bit about badgers, what the Badger Group does, persecution, and then a bit on climate change. So if you want the next slide, please. So the Lancashire Badger Group consists of approximately 250 paid up members. It varies depending what's going on. During the cold season, it goes up, and we sort of add and take off members, but it's round about 250. Of those, approximately 30 or 40 are active volunteers, which basically means quite a few people go out and do set monitoring and surveying. We have probably within the trustees, which will be about 12 of us, do the vast majority of everything else. So education, planning, set monitoring, surveying, training, and things like that. We cover all of Lancashire, parts of Greater Manchester, occasionally cover parts of Yorkshire with another group, and we also cover parts of Cumbria. We attend open days and fairs with our badger stall, and we have a shop that sells. We only try and sell quality merchandise, and we try and find things that have been manufactured in the UK. Don't always work, but we try our best. We carry out presentations such as this to groups and interested parties. We do education activity days in schools with youth organisations, and we do set protection work against persecution. We try and check all the planning applications for all the councils in Lancashire, and we do expert advice for police and councils. And ecologists and developers if they seek our advice. We do set surveying for new sets and we monitor existing sets. We have a database of all the existing sets that we know of. That doesn't mean we know of all the sets, it's just that we know, and these are the ones we've come across or we've been told about. And we use that, we have a database that planners can use and ecologists to contact us and ask us if they're doing a planning application, if there's any badgers in the area. And what we say to them is, just because we don't have any records doesn't mean to say there are no badgers, it's just that we've got no records. We are a registered charity and rely on membership fees, donations and fundraising. We have no paid staff. Everybody's a volunteer. Next, please. So this is what we do, or this is what we try and protect. It's a European or Eurasian badger, and its Latin name is Meles. It's got some, as you can see, most people know what a badger looks like. Very few people have come across one, unless it's lying dead at the side of the road. Striking features are they always have black and white striped face, and it's always white, black, white, black, white. And if you look, the eyes are set in the black bands of the face. We think this is to stop badgers' eyes being attacked by predators or cats or foxes or anything like that. And basically, they have no predators in the UK apart from man, which obviously we have lots of problems with. Next slide, please. So this gives you an idea of the distribution of badgers throughout the UK. If you look on the top left-hand corner, it actually says 2007. We don't have a more up-to-date picture of what the population is at the moment. And since 2010, the government have been culling badgers at the rate of, well, you started off at about 20,000. We're up to about 40,000, I think now. So they've culled 250,000 badgers so far. So this map could, and it's probably totally out of date, where the dark green areas are where you'd expect to see the most badgers going, and as you go lighter, so white at the top of Scotland, very few badgers. If you look at Cornwall, Devon, Gloucestershire, South Wales, they were the places that had the most badgers. We actually know that in some of these areas, badgers now are locally extinct. They've been culled that much. And the Badger Trust last year was trying to do, well, they did a pilot study on called the State of the Badger. And basically what they wanted to do was to map out and survey 1 kilometre squares in certain areas in the UK. There were 5 counties did it. There was Lancashire, Somerset, I can't remember the other 3, the top of my head. And basically what they wanted to do was find the sets, and from that correlate how many badgers there would be per kilometre. The idea then was then to put this out across the UK and see whether or not we could get a true figure for how many badgers exist. The population is thought to stand at about 350 to 400,000 badgers. Of that, we lose 50,000 a year to road traffic accidents. On top of that, if we lose another 50,000 to the cull, so basically we're back down to 250 to 300,000 badgers. We could actually make them extinct if there was a catastrophe within the badger population. 250,000 badgers could quite easily disappear, which is why we're against the cull. Next, please. Badgers are the UK's largest land-based carnivores, and they're part of the musterly group, which includes otters, storks, weasels, pine martens. They live in groups called clans or sets, or the set spelled C-E-T-E. There is always one dominant male, which is the boar, and one dominant female, which is the sow, although there can be multiple offsprings from generational offsprings from recent years. Although they can mate after 12 months, the females generally don't. If they do, there's a chance that the dominant female or dominant male will actually kill their offspring. It's a bit vicious, but you know, that's nature for you. They live in social groups. So basically, in front of you there, I think you've got at least 3 cubs and 1 adult, and that could be just 1 year's group of cubs. Can we have the next slide, please? And this is what we call home. So generally speaking, although if you read the books, they would tell you that badgers live in nice woodlands with sandy soil, and they're always deciduous, good for digging. Not truly always the case. Badgers will turn up virtually anywhere. So we get them underneath houses, under sheds, in railway embankments, river embankments. In where I'm from, which is probably, you could probably tell off my accent, is East Lancashire. We have the badgers live in a lot of the old mine workings, and actually instead of digging their way in, they'll use the mine workings to dig their way out again. So they'll find where the entrances have been blocked off and dig their way back out again, which makes them really difficult to work out whether or not it's a badger set. It takes a lot of training to be able to say this is a badger set or this isn't a badger set. Next, please. So badgers, basically, as we said in one of the first slides, are the UK's biggest carnivore, although the diet is omnivorous. So this pie chart will give you an idea, and a sort of idea what the main diet is: worms, of which they will eat between 150 and 200 worms per evening. And then to supplement this, we insects, invertebrates, fruits, depending at this time of year, they're eating a lot of food and storing up fat for the winter. Mammals, and before, in case somebody asked a question, yes, they do eat hedgehogs. They won't chase hedgehogs around. If they find one that's ill or weak, they will eat it. And sometimes they eat hedgehogs because the badgers themselves are ill and they can't go out foraging. They eat cereals, which when we do this talk for children, we always go, no, it's not Cocoa Pops and Rice Krispies. We mean maize, wheat, barley, those sort of things. They'll eat fungi, and they will also take eggs of ground nesting birds. But the favourite food, as we call it, is badger spaghetti, which is worms. Next, please. So badgers are the UK's only protected mammal, where the mammal, the animal itself is protected, but also its habitat or its home, its set, is protected. And where badgers and their sets are protected by law, they have a guilty conviction can lead to a 6 months in prison and/or a £5,000 fine, plus a seizure of any equipment and dogs involved in committing crime. Now, obviously, this law was set up and the fines were set up as persecution by man with dogs, basically digging badgers out and baiting the badgers with dogs. Just put the next slide up, please. That act is called the Protection of Badgers Act 1992. There is a follow-up act put in, which was the Hunting Act 2004, which is hunting with dogs. We get very few convictions from the Protection of Badgers Act, and the vast majority are hunting with dogs, the Hunting Act. And that's because to get a prosecution for digging a badger set out or attacking a badger, you have to prove that the set was active prior to an offence taking place. Whereas if you're caught hunting with dogs, basically you've broken the law, and it's easier to get a prosecution. Go to the next one, please.
Yeah, just also a 5-minute warning.
All right, that's fine. Yeah. I'm not that far off. I'll speed it up a bit. So persecution basically takes various forms. So on the right-hand side of the slide, you will see at the top, this is a badger set that has been dug out and the badgers removed. The badger will either be taken and used in for betting against with dogs. So basically build a pit and set dogs upon it. There aren't many dogs that will take a badger out. So basically the badgers are pre-injured. So they'll either break the jaw or break a leg on the badgers, just as they put it. So it's an even fight. Cruel beyond belief. The other one is a crossbull lurcher. These are what we call long dogs. And these are, as the name suggests, are bred specifically to do a thing. These will take full-grown red deer out. And these lads who are doing this, or blokes, basically will set one of these loose in a field and they're not bothered what it's chasing. Could be cats, dogs, deer, badgers, foxes, hares, anything. Obviously against the law, but catching them is another thing. The other side of the persecution is the one that doesn't hit the public's eye so much, which is land management, forestry and development. The fines before, if you got £5,000 fine and you're building, let's say, 5 houses, you're only putting £1,000 on each property. Basically, the fines are a joke. It doesn't stop developers ignoring badgers. Next, please. Right, so how does this fit in with the climate change? These are all what I see as the big ones, the ones that get all the publicity, that get all the action, that sort of people know about. So we're using carbon fuels. We then go to wind turbines, solar power, electric vehicles, and stop using carbon fuel. So basically diesel and things like that. Just have next slide, please. You've skipped 2. So how does this affect insects and invertebrates? Well, I think that that basically we don't pay enough attention. So the people that I'm not saying that the other ones are not important. The temperature change will have an effect on invertebrates and insects. But at the other end of the scale, invertebrates and insects are basically being decimated at the moment. As it gets warmer, some of these creatures will be able to move north to cooler climates. What can't move with them is the plants. So animals are mobile. Plants are really they are mobile, but very, very slow. Next, please. I put a wasp on there for a reason as well. So these have been borrowed from buglife.org.uk, who said I can use them. So basically, invertebrates make up 65% of all species on the planet. They include important decomposers, creating nutrient-rich soils. We've got pollinators ensure that fertilization and continuation of trees and plants. 2/3 of the world's crops rely on pollinators. 14 million kilograms of insect prey, such as caterpillars and aphids, are eaten by wasps each year. I don't know many people who like wasps. 1.3 million invertebrate species on the planet, and rising as we work out, start counting them. There's $3 billion worth of value for pollination in the US. There's 367 million annual value of dung beetles, believe it or not, to the UK economy. There's 691 million annual valuation of pollination to the UK economy. And we've so far identified 40,000 invertebrates in the UK. 8 out of 10 wildflowers rely on insect pollination. And as I put on, all supplied by buglife.org.uk. Next slide, please. So we've got two different problems, both with devastated outcomes. And unfortunately, most of the climate action focuses are on temperature limitations. Although we're reading more at the moment about the drop in insect populations, and I think it was last week that the figures for the butterflies came out, which have dropped by, I think, 30%. I think there's only one butterfly that's actually gone up this year. Numbers have gone up. So we need to tackle both at the same time. If we don't, the outcome for humanity will be dire. If we don't have pollinators, basically we don't eat. You can hand pollinate, but we're not as good at it as insects are. We expect industry and commerce, with its roots in capitalism, to provide solutions. We expect governments whose economies are built on fossil fuels to change. And a classic one for that is Norway. Norway've got the most EV cars, I think, in the world, but definitely in the Northern Hemisphere. And part of this is the money that they got from gas and oil. They invested, and now they've given all the population, they're giving incentives to buy EV cars. The flip side of that is they're still selling fossil fuels on the market. So they're clean in one way and dirty in another. So they're doing one good thing and one bad thing. So does that make it good or bad? That's open for discussion. We expect cost-driven farming to care for wildlife, and basically farming's become an industry as opposed to what it used to be probably 30 or 40 years ago, where they were looking after the countryside as well as farming. Realistically, will they change? I suspect not. The general public feels powerless due to the size of the problem. The usual thing you get is, what can we do? We can't make a difference. And I think it's down to groups like this to educate the public and force change on governments and business. And I'm not saying that we should all go out and glue ourselves to railings or roads. I just think there are ways and means of doing it. Next, please. Because basically, does anybody know the significance of this picture, by the way? I'm going to have to tell you anyway, otherwise we'll be here all day. As it says at the bottom, this is Earthrise taken by Apollo 8 space mission. Christmas Eve 1968. This is the first colour photograph taken of Earth. There's a black and white one taken before this one, but no colour one. And there isn't a planet B. 60 years we've been going into space, and they've still not found another Earth. So we can only fix this one. Next slide, please. If you want any further information, the QR code's up there. That'll take you directly to the website. There's a group of emails. If you want to email me direct or the Badger group, that's fine. Please do. Hope you enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. That was really interesting. Yeah, learning more about badgers in general, and also sort of how they fit into the whole ecosystem, and how we can all play our part to protect those ecosystems. Before we move on to the next speaker, does anyone have any questions for Andy about any of his presentation or about badgers in general? Debbie, yeah?
You're on mute, Debbie.
Let me see. Can you Cody, could you unmute her by any chance?
No, I can only mute them.
Can you type your question in the chat potentially? Maybe Rory, you've got your hand up. Maybe while Debbie's typing.
Okay. Just a very straightforward question. What is the protocol for reporting the sight of a badger if we see one?
You can go on our website. If you look for forms on the website, that will take you to. There's a number of forms on there. One of them will say, have you seen a dead badger or a live badger? Or if you've got a what 3 words for it or a grid reference for it, that is helpful before you go on the website.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that.
Thank you. I mean, alternatively, take my email address and email it to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want it now?
No, I'll. Well, I think I'll get it from the website. Will I?
You will. Yeah. There'll be an inquiries one on there anyway.
It's just that I'm representing Wally Hydro, and I'll just feed back to the group how to report a sighting if any of the individuals see one. That's fine. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Rory. I think Debbie's still typing. I was just wondering. Oh, here we go. Debbie says, has the change in herd management of cows leading to diminution in TB in cattle impacted on farming generally? And Nicole.
I don't know whether anybody saw the recent documentary done by Brian May, whereby the problem is I have to say farmers have been sold a lie, and we've been saying for a long time that badger groups and predominantly the Badger Trust would like to work with farmers, but the NFU don't want us to work with farmers because they just see the problem being badgers. They don't see the problem as, it could be any of their problem, like how they do testing or things like that. Herd sizes have increased in the time I've been doing it. Herd sizes have increased, and they look more as a commodity than an animal. So when I was younger, I was said that cattle would probably live till 8, 10, possibly 15 years, something like that. Modern cattle are killed after about 3 years. As soon as the yield goes down, cows are sent to slaughter. But they're also packed in. I work for a guy who does fixes tractors. I still go on a lot of farms. Most of the farmers don't know what my about the link with badgers that I have. They're trying to do a business. They're trying to make a living, and I understand that. But yeah, it isn't a simple question. That's a very, very complex question with a very complex answer. Happy to meet up with anybody who wants to have a talk about TB. You'd need about half a day to talk about it, to be honest. I don't know whether that helps or not, Debbie.
looks like it has. Any other questions at all? I've just got hopefully a quick one. I was just wondering, obviously we spoke about the culling and potential changes in their locations and habitat. What would you say is the biggest threat to badgers, and what do you think that we could do as a public to help keep them happy and healthy?
The biggest threat at the moment is a cull, because they keep finding more and more reasons to cull badgers. We've just had it, and we thought with the change of government, I'm getting political now. Thought with the change of government, they said they would stop culling, and yeah, they're going to stop culling, but not till 2029. And they said they would not have any new licenses. And what they've done, they've issued a new license for Cumbria, and the TB problem in Cumbria has been identified as a bull that was brought in from Ireland. So it's clearly not the badgers, and that link can be seen. Yet the badgers still get the blame for it. So we'll call the badgers, but we won't improve farm biosecurity, and we won't improve testing. We'll just keep doing. I think it was Einstein that said, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, that is the definition of madness. And that's what we're doing. We've done it since 2020, since 2010. And before I can go back before that, the randomized badger cull trials before that stated that culling badgers will make no difference to TB. And we've taken till now, and we know now that it's that, but we're still doing the same thing.
Oh. And
the other one is developments. Although developing better at it, developers have worked out that if they've got a badger set on a site and they haven't told somebody about it, we basically will walk on with the police and say stop work, which costs a lot of money. It's more cost effective to do it beforehand. Mm-hmm. And we work with developers because we can't work against them. Mm-hmm. We can't win.
No, that makes sense. Well, thanks, Andy. That was really interesting. And yeah, we'll send through copies of the slides if you want. So you've got Andy's details and the details of the website. So if you want to get in touch for any more detailed conversation. Yeah.
Can I just add one last thing? If anybody wants, is involved with any small groups, in terms of whatever, Women's Institute, men's clubs or things like that, and they want us to come along and do a talk, we will happily come and do a talk. We expect, we'd like a donation, we don't expect it. If people can't afford it, we'll do it for free. And if you want to contact me or just contact the group, we can sort out a time to do it. It's not a problem. We enjoy doing it. It's just educating people's good fun.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andy. So for our second speaker today, we've got Cody from the Ribble Rivers Trust. So Cody, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, I'll just share my screen quickly. That's it. Let us know if you can see it. Yeah?
Yeah, can do.
Yeah, nice, lovely. So we're going to just do a quick presentation on a recent project that we've got going, which is called Room for Rivers, and it was funded through Species Survival Fund, which is through DEFRA and the National Lottery Heritage Fund. So just a quick overview of who we are. Some of you may have heard of us. So we're only a small charity. We're based out in Clitheroe, but as you can see from the map, we have a very large catchment area stretching all the way up from Ribblehead all the way down to Lytham St Anne's. So the River Ribble itself is about 75 miles, about 112 kilometres. But we also look at the Calder, the Hodder, the Darwin, the Yarrow, and the Douglas. So all in all, if you added it all together, it does stretch out fairly wide. And there's only about 30 of us at the trust. So we heavily depend on the local volunteers, people coming out, schools. We do a lot with schools, and the kids love coming out and helping, tree planting, all that sort of stuff. So the Ribble Revival Room for Rivers project came about, and the main aim of it is to target specific areas, and I've just pinpointed them on the map as well. And the main aim is to increase species across the area, predominantly things like fish, but we'll obviously be helping a lot of other things by doing tree planting in the areas. We'll be helping out with a lot of things like invertebrates and the likes. But we're not the only ones to have received funding. So the pot itself was, I think, 25 million. We received a small proportion of that, but there's also 20 other projects as well going across other charities and other organizations as well. So the locations were specifically picked based on years and years and years of data. So we have roughly 16 years of data from fish surveys. We have a couple of people at our trust that spend basically their entire summer going across over 300 sites across our catchment, doing electrofishing, which is a great process. It does temporarily stun the fish, but does not cause them any lasting harm or anything like that. It just gives us enough to go through the river, check how much fish it is, the species, if we're getting bullheads, if we're getting fry or salmon or trout. And we roughly get about 90% of the fish out, check it all, and then it all goes back in the river as well. It's as if we were never there. And we also have things like citizen scientists. They go out and do river fly samples, which anyone can pretty much get involved with. So over the years, this has shown certain areas that have declines in things like smelt, eels, salmon, and trout. So the reasons why these often go down is often human intervention. So we look for things like water quality, the water quantity, habitat quality, and habitat connectivity. So that would involve things that previous generations have put in, such as weirs during the Industrial Revolution. And these have such a damaging effect on the wildlife in the long run. So as part of this project, we have a lot of key aims and a lot of high targets, shall I say, that we want to achieve. So we roughly want to do 7.63 hectares of wetland and riparian habitat, and also 37 kilometers of watercourse and habitat are going to be altered as well. So this breaks down, as you can see from the screen, as 1.65 hectares of improving in-channel and riparian habitat. We'll also be improving river channel of about 4.5 kilometers, decultivating and daylighting 1.21 kilometers, and improving river habitat in a further 31. And then finally, wetland creation and restoration is just short of 6 hectares. So this is the 12 projects that we are currently looking at doing as part of this. So we've already done some, which I'll go into in a little bit, but we have wetlands, we have decultivating, remeandering of rivers. We also have leaky dams to help with natural flood management, weir removals, fish passes. So we do cover a wide variety of topics with this funding, which is great. So going into the first project, this is the one we've actually completed, I think roughly a couple of weeks ago. We completed this Holden wetland. So this is just up from Bolton by Bowland. It's just off of Holden Beck. And the main aim of this is to increase wetlands which are becoming even rarer, not just across the UK, but across the world as well. And there is such a great habitat for so many species, little mammals as well. So hopefully we'll see some of them. So the main aim of this, as I've said, is to create habitat. So one key factor that we have done with this is made sloping sides to allow easy access for animals to go in and out. It'll also help improve water quality with the plants that will be there, like plug plants. And it'll also help a lot with natural flood management. So this is 2 connecting ponds that can hold roughly 1,100 cubic meters of water, which saves the water going straight into the beck, and then that beck will feed down into Bolton by Bowland, which floods quite regularly. So by holding this water, you reduce the immediate impact in the village when we've had high water and high flow. It will slowly filter back into the beck, but obviously we can control it a bit better. So I'm going to show you some before and after pictures. So this is the before picture of Holden, what is now Holden wetland. As you can see, it's quite a standard wet sort of grassy area. It's unused by the farmer. It's not really have any sheep on or anything like that. So what we've done is we've come in and put, this is one of the ponds, and as you can see, the little gravel trail coming out the bottom as well, which will feed into the next pond. So this will provide so much more wildlife. We're going to be doing some ecological surveys here to monitor it over the years. So this will include things like bat surveys, pond dipping, and we might even be able to get people out to do this and participate, which would be great. Another project we have is Bezer Brook. So I'm not sure if everyone knows where Bezer Brook is, but it feeds into the River Ribble, not far from Brock, as you can see from the map. And just up from where it joins the River Ribble, there is a small concrete structure, 3 little barriers. And unfortunately, this is stopping the fish migration further upstream. So our aim here is to increase fish populations by altering this structure and then connecting the higher and the lower sections of the river. So this is the 3 concrete structures that we have, which doesn't seem overly big, but it's enough that fish can't travel upstream. Some can, but majority can't. So what we're looking at doing is introducing some pre-barrages and notches. So this will allow different levels for the fish to go up and also alter the way the water falls over the barriers to provide an easier stream for the fish to go up. This work started 2 weeks ago, so it'll be ongoing for a little bit more. But a great note on this one is we went to a local school just upstream and they have Bezer Brook running through the back of them, and as part of a forest school they go down. So hopefully in the coming years they will see some fish further upstream. This is a picture of the works undergoing. A bit of a mess, but yeah. And then we've got some re-meandering going as well. So towards the top end of our catchment near Long Preston, there is a section of the river that previously was historically straightened and perched above its floodplain, which is really bad for habitats. It's very uniform. You don't get a lot of pools or riffles and a loss of important gravels. So what we're going to be doing is going in and putting in a re-meander or re-wiggle, almost trying to get it back to its more natural state by using old maps. And this will improve the flow of the water. It'll introduce ripples. It'll allow for vegetation in the rocks. So it'll hopefully increase fish species up there as well. Nice little picture of the fairly straight Long Preston Beck that we have at the moment. So skirting leaky dams is probably the best one we have as an example for natural flood management. So we've already done work in this area near Brackenhurst Farm, but we are planning on going and doing a lot more with this project. And we'll be installing things like leaky dams and engineered log jams. I'll show you a picture in a second to show you what these are. And the main aim of this is to help with the flooding happening in Bolton by Bowland and also to create complex habitats. So this is what Skirden Beck currently looks like. It's quite nice. It's not too deep and not too wide, but in high flow, the water rises up to where the bankings are. So leaky dams are made by felling natural trees. So often we use things like willow as well, or riparian trees, and they will be put across the beck and then held in place. It is better to use trees that are existing as anchor points to stop it being flooded downstream. But alternatively, we can put in stakes and hold them. And then what we do is we get willow and wind it in between and brash bundles and wire it all together so it stays. But it roughly sits about 300 millimeters above the general flow line of the river. So this means that in your standard flow, nothing's being affected. The fish, whatever's living in the river, is not being affected. It's only when it comes to high flow that these will come into work. So here are one of our volunteers creating them and putting them in place. And they do look very rustic to keep in line with the surrounding areas. And we have often used things like Christmas trees as well, old ones. So this is a great example of it in high flood. So as you can see, the difference from the water levels on the left upstream to the water levels on the right, the leaky dam is doing its best to hold back the water. And what it'll do is it'll slowly release the water further downstream. And by having a series of these, you sort of block it further and further upstream. It just reduces how much comes down all in one go into Bolton by Bowland. And the good thing with this one is we've even extended the brash bundles across onto like the natural floodplain in the surrounding areas and purposefully flooded this area on the farmer's land purely to avoid it going downstream. And this land on the farmers would not be used it potentially floods during the year during high flows anyway, but we're just flooding it more, and then it will slowly drain back in. And then another project we have is chipping weir removal. So this is another fish pass project, again to increase fish populations and connect the habitats below and upstream, and it'll also help to create and improve habitats. And then a similar thing of wetland and leaky hedges, again increasing the wetlands that we have in the area, improving the water quality and creating these complex habitats that are severely lacking for the various animals, fish, amphibians, all sorts, and it's slowing the flow and helping to introduce natural flood management. The leaky hedges are a great example in terms of on farmers' land, because this helps with the surface runoff. So when you have the farmers put stuff on the field and then the water comes down, it will help filter this going into the river. Here's a little diagram of the sort of wetland. So as you can see, they're not very deep, the wetlands, but they do hold an awful lot of water. So how are we going to achieve this? So like I said, we're a small charity. There's only about 30 of us in this. So we rely so heavily on volunteers. So we're aiming to get about 300 volunteers involved in this across 35 practical volunteer days. So this will involve tree planting, ash bundling, plug planting, kids coming out doing invasive species. But we're also linking a lot with farmers because we don't own any land. So all this work that we do is often on farmers' land. So the relationship we have to have with them is really good, and getting them more and more involved in this is brilliant. We're also aiming to do community drop-in events, and this is more of a spread the word. So we often do stalls during the summer. We get kids out. We'll also be doing things like guided walks that people can come along around the project. So we're hopefully trying to do one with the Ramblers in Clitheroe. And then also presentations. So this falls into engagement with schools as well. So you can see the photo in the top right with the children. That is a fish pass project we did previously in Rishton at Duncanhouse Weir. That is a very large weir, so you can't remove it because you just couldn't know the detriment that would cause by releasing all that water. It'd be like a knock-on effect upstream. And then also as part of this, it's not going to be a case of we have this project for 2 years. We've got funding as part of this to do evaluation and cost management of a maintenance plan. So we will be checking in on these sites, I think up until about 2034, roughly 10 years, looking back and making sure that they're doing as we're expected. And if we need intervention, we'll need intervention. So one of the wetlands that we do have, we are going to leave that to naturally plant itself. Often we would go in and plug plant, but we're going to see what it does, and hopefully it will rewild itself quite nicely. Yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Cody. That was fantastic. Also really interesting. Nice, contrast from the badgers, sort of going into the water realm. But yeah, really interesting to hear all about the different works we're doing and what a great opportunity with that funding. Has anyone got any questions for Cody? Sarah?
I wondered whether you considered releasing beavers.
Ooh. To be honest, I'm not aware that we would be released. It's not something that I've discussed with the rest of the team. It'd be above my pay grade, put it that way. Wouldn't be my decision. But yeah, I think it's not something we're looking into currently. Maybe down the line, who knows? But at the minute, no, unfortunately.
What made me think of it was the high level trees that create the.
It's very similar, yeah.
Beavers do.
Beavers require an awful lot of woodland. So someone explained to me in that the size of woodland that you'd need to be able to get lost in it very easily. So we don't have any woodlands around us that are that big that you could get that lost in. But be nice for the future.
Sorry, I'm muted. Rory, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to come in on the beaver comment, because I can't remember exactly where, but I read an article recently about beavers being reintroduced to parts of Scotland. So there are organisations around that have this project in hand. So I just thought I'd mention it because it might be worth the trust doing a rain check on that and seeing if it's something that they could develop locally here. Because I would suspect the benefits that they're trying to achieve with this project in Scotland would be just as applicable in the upper reaches of the Ribble Valley.
Yeah, I'll make sure to pass that on.
Okay.
So it'll be, the rest of the team are very much interested.
Brill, thanks, Rory. Neve's got a question on the chat. What's the best way to get involved with volunteering?
So you can sign up online. If you go to our website, you can get a email bulletin, and we don't spam you. It is usually once a week. We'll send you an email that says, these are all the volunteering opportunities that we've got coming up. Sign up. There's no there's no payment, nothing. Like, all we want is your time. Come along. We also have things called tempo time credits. So for every hour that you volunteer with us, if you sign up for this, you can get an hour a credit through tempo time credits, and these can be used to get into different organizations. So I remember when I last checked, you could get into a Preston football match with them. So just a little incentive for people to come and volunteer. And then if you've got bigger organizations that want to volunteer, maybe like your work party or like a school that you know wants to volunteer, if you just drop us an email, the email's on the website or at the end of this presentation, and we can sort something out, it'd be great. All ages welcome as well.
Thanks, Cody. I think, yeah, always good to know how to volunteer, and all offers of volunteering are always welcome. Any other questions about the Rivers project? That's all. I had a couple of people saying thank you. Well, yeah, thank you both to Andy and Cody. Cody, are you all right to share your presentation slides as well?
Yeah.
I can send it. I think Harvey's got the distribution list of people who signed up, so we can send those on. So it's got contact details for both Cody and Andy if anyone wants to get in contact. Our next lunch and learn is on. I was just got the date up now. It is right at the end of November, so it's Thursday the 28th of November, and the theme of that is arts and culture, and we've got Super Slow Way, who I have noticed are here today listening in, and more music from Morecambe, so they'll be talking about their work and how that intersects with the environment and climate, so it should be a really interesting session. Before we finish, has anyone got any updates that they'd like to share or any news before we go? No, I'll take that as everyone's happy and they're going to go and enjoy their lunch. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining today. It's been really great to hear about both of your presentations, and we'll see you in a couple of months for our next session. Bye everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.